what you're thinking. This is quite an excessive face beat for daytime therapy talks, but you know what? I got some new makeup, I wanted to test it out, and what a better time than in a video, so fight me. I would also like to provide some gentle apologies and clarification on the fact that my previous videos have some editing issues, shall we say. I know that sometimes my words cut out and sometimes there's long pauses or me looking down at my notes in the middle of videos, and I really am not making excuses for myself. I went to school to learn how to talk about feelings and I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm learning as I go with rudimentary technology at best. So you're along for the ride and you're gonna deal with the tech issues as we go. For today's topic, I would like to talk about my personal focus in therapy, which is addiction. Yay! So, I think we are starting to get some better understanding of what addiction is and isn't in our pop culture understanding of the issue. But I do want to clarify a couple things because I still think that there is a lot of misrepresentation out there. When we talk about addiction in therapy terms, we do not necessarily mean only people who are physically dependent on a substance. In fact, really the only qualifications for someone needing to work on addiction in therapy is continued use of something despite negative consequences. That's a very broad definition, I realize that. And I also realize that a lot of us have things that we have done even though we knew bad things were gonna happen, and they happened, and then we still did them again later on. So by that definition, which is what I'm here to talk to you today, is we all have some experience with the addictive process. You can understand addiction. Even if you haven't ever had an addiction, haven't ever known anyone with addiction, I guarantee you there is something in your personal frame of reference that actually has some qualities of addictive behavior, because I'm going to walk you through a theory that is my own but also widely shared amongst addiction professionals. I want to start by clarifying that I am what is lovingly referred to as a normie. In the world of addiction, that is someone that does not have an addiction. I want to be straight with everybody and clarify that I myself do not, as of this time, have any addictions. I like to clarify that because I also like to explain that I have spent the last 7 years of my career as a normie trying to help people with addictions in a meaningful way, and therefore trying to find my own frame of reference for what that behavior looks like in my perspective, and trying to find my own frame of reference for what that behavior and feeling and process might feel like in my own skin. So I have an opinion. It may not be a very popular one, but I do know that it is shared by many. And I happen to believe that there really is not such a great difference between addicts and non-addicts, because I think addiction just takes chemistry and hijacks normal human behavior. So, using the definition of continued use of something despite negative consequences, let's start with my favorite analogy that has to do with food. One of my favorite things. Everybody has a guilty pleasure food. I have many. One of mine is hot Cheetos. They're disgusting, and I hate that I love them. Not only are they disgusting, but they do disgusting things to my insides. I'm sorry for having to share this with you. I would like to walk you through what an addictive process to hot Cheetos, in my own experience, looks like. So we've already established that hot Cheetos and me are, let's just say I love them and they don't love me. So let's say I've been trying to kick this hot Cheeto habit because one, they're not good for me, and two, aside from the momentary joy of ingesting large amounts of them, they really only bring me suffering in the long run. So I'm doing well. I don't eat hot Cheetos for a while, but then, you know, as is wont to happen, I have a really bad day. I stub my toe really bad, and I admit to my whole YouTube family that I get the shits when I eat hot Cheetos. And my dog is sick. She's not sick, everybody, she's fine. This is just hypothetical. All bad things happen, and I have every reason to feel stressed out and grumpy. And I come home, there's a bag of hot Cheetos sitting in the kitchen. What is the likelihood that despite my intentions not to eat them, that I'm going to eat them? I might be able to tough it out and say no, but there's a very good chance that in the presence of that, despite the fact that I know that I'm gonna have a very ugly reunion with my toilet later on, and also the fact that I have made the decision to not eat them anymore, there's a good chance that under the right circumstances, if they're presented to me, I may eat them. Now, I happen to believe that there is not a person out there that doesn't have some frame of reference for that kind of relationship with a bad habit, whether it's something that has to do with food, whether it actually is a chemical substance itself, whether it's shopping or working out or eating disorder behavior, or even just biting your nails or something like that, pulling out your hair. These are all things that all of us have some frame of reference for, and an understanding that there are things that we struggle to put down even though they're not good for us. And that really is the one qualifier of an addiction. It just happens to be specific to drugs and alcohol. There's two very, very human traits that follow addictive processes. One component is obsession, and that is intrusive thoughts about the thing. You can have obsessive thoughts about all kinds of things, even though you may be trying to forget or not think about them. You can have obsessive thoughts about having hot, passionate sex with random strangers, even though you know that's not really the way you want to live your life. You can have obsessive thoughts about food or hot Cheetos. It is really a coin toss whether I'm gonna go buy a bag of hot Cheetos at the end of this video. There's so many things, and when we really like doing something, when it's really rewarding, it doesn't matter if it's bad for us. It's something that our brain is naturally going to cycle through, especially in times of stress. Hey, this is something that you like to do. This is something that gives you release. The other aspect of human behavior that facilitates addiction is compulsion. Compulsion is when a person is driven to complete an action. I was trying to describe compulsion without using the word in the definition. Aren't you proud of me? Compulsion happens when we are driven to do something almost involuntarily. Now, some people are more able to keep compulsions in check, but some people struggle more. However, there is not a person on this planet that has not had some experience with, despite damn well knowing that something was a bad idea and damn well knowing that they didn't want to do something, all of a sudden, as if on autopilot, found themselves walking through the behavior. Whether it is just finding yourself walking down the chip aisle as though your feet were controlled by another being and stopping right in front of the Cheetos section. It could be reaching out to that person that you know you're not supposed to talk to. Another hallmark of compulsion is the amount of distress you feel if you're not able to do it. So for you avid gym goers, how do you feel when you can't go to the gym because you're injured? That's an example of a compulsion. It may be a compulsion to do something that's typically healthy for you, but going to the gym when you're injured isn't. It actually will further your injuries, and sometimes people feel so compelled to continue that behavior that they will work out through an injury and injure themselves further. Thus, you have an addictive process. So by comparison, you have my lame hot Cheetos example, I would say times by about 100 or more. In conclusion, what this all means. We all have some experience with feelings of obsession and feelings of compulsion. When somebody is in the throes of an active addiction, those very normal human traits are taken over by altered brain chemistry, creating something going beyond something that can be remedied with simple good judgment and discipline. A big reason why I see people distancing themselves from being able to understand addiction is because they don't want to recognize that behavior within themselves. I happen to believe the best way to help something is to actually understand it. And sometimes I'm not going to be able to understand it through my own experience. Sometimes I have to take someone's word for it that it's really not what it seems like to me. I have a lot to say on this particular topic, and I would love to hear if you want to hear more about it, so please let me know. If you liked this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel because otherwise this is just a scream into the void if no one's watching. You can follow me on all of my social media. I am on both Instagram and Facebook. And that's all she wrote for today. Thanks for watching, everybody.